I got a phone call in the middle of the night that I will never forget. I was divorced and living in an apartment. My youngest daughter had begged me to go and live with her dad, and so I had relented. Everything seemed to be working out fine. She seemed happy as a lark. My oldest daughter and her boyfriend were living with me in my apartment. The situation was working out for everyone. Then, late one night. I don't recall the hour, but I know it was in the wee hours of the morning. The phone on my bedside table rang its shrill screaming ring and my eyes popped open. My heart was pounding before I even answered the phone. I grabbed the receiver and said, "Hello," not knowing what to expect. Then my blood ran cold. My baby girl was crying hysterically. I couldn't understand anything she said, and then she said, between sobs, "Can you come and get me?" I asked her if she was safe. Did she need the police? She said no, she was safe. It was a 30-minute drive to her dad's house. I told her I was on my way. I frantically woke my daughter and her boyfriend and told them what had happened. They jumped into their clothes and we ran out the door to my truck. I made it in 20 minutes. I drove like a crazy woman. My heart was in my throat. There were no cell phones then. So no communication until we arrived. We drove up and hurried up the walk and into the house. All was quiet. There was one lamp on in the living room, which cast a warm glow on my sleeping ex-husband. My daughter came out of her bedroom and she wasn't crying anymore. She just grabbed me and hugged me and said she wanted to go home with me. I tried to wake her dad, but it turned out that he was stone cold plastered and had passed out. So I wrote a note to her grandma, who lived there too, telling her that I had my daughter, and for her to tell my ex. We all squeezed into the cab of my truck. My daughter had packed up most of her belongings when she was waiting for us. All of it was in the bed of the truck. I tried to get my daughter to talk to me and tell me what had upset her so, and when had her dad started drinking again, but she clammed up and wouldn't say anything. I never heard a peep from her dad. Over the course of a couple of days, I had pieced the story together, most of it anyway. Her dad was a drunk. But he had been sober for a good long while. I hadn't known he started drinking again. He had his eye on a particular female, who happened to not be interested in him in the least. However, he persisted in chasing after her, and she was tired of it. So he had been out drinking at the same place where this female was, and there was a bad argument. My ex was fuming when he came into the house and woke my daughter up. He cried on her shoulders about how misunderstood he was, and he had needs, and who knows what else he said. Then he made my daughter call this woman and ask her why she didn't like her dad. She cussed my daughter out, and then a couple more people got on the line and cussed her out and she hung up, but he made her call back. I don't know how long this went on, but he eventually just passed out on the couch. In my gut, I knew there was more, but my daughter wasn't talking, even though I point blank asked her if her father had done anything harmful or offensive to her. 3 days after I picked my daughter up, her dad called me. He said, and I quote, "Hey, you haven't seen daughter around, have you?" I was shocked. Come to find out, the note I had written got blown off the table when the AC came on, or something like that, because neither grandma nor dad had seen a note. So for 3 days, he didn't know where his daughter was, only that when he woke up one morning, she and all her stuff were gone. 3 days. I was livid. I couldn't even speak. I told him our daughter was staying with me, and he whined about it, because, you know, child support, but I didn't care if he never sent a penny, I wasn't going to send her back to him. And she didn't want to see him. I have never gotten over the feeling that my ex did something to my daughter that night. She was 14, but I swear, so innocent that we all jokingly thought she would become a nun one day. With the purest heart you've ever known. I had no choice but to accept what she told me and leave it at that. Fast forward a bunch of years later. My daughter was married, with 2 babies and living in a big city. I went to visit her at the birth of her second child, and late one night we were having a heart-to-heart talk. Once again, I asked her what exactly had occurred that night to make her cry hysterically and leave so abruptly. She sighed and said, "Mom, me and Dad have settled that. It's over." I'm not talking about it. I don't want you to go to prison. My heart fell to my feet once again, because she had just confirmed my worst fears. Out of respect for my daughter, I have never brought the matter up again. I do not speak to my ex. I do not want to go to prison, either.